All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the OCD and Anxiety Show. My name is Matt Cotty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. I know that's a long intro. Today, I want to talk about the idea of holiday stress, right? And I think that so many of us have these ideas about the holidays, right? That we bring in. The reality is the holidays. I mean, as we usually refer to them, are between Thanksgiving and call it New Year's Eve, right? So about 5 weeks of the year, and it's a time of year where we traditionally like to get together with family, parties and gatherings, and in general, it's a very favorable and highly looked upon time of year, right? Or a time of year that's looked upon highly. And for many of us, it's very stressful. And so I want to talk about that for a second, right? And I want to talk about kind of, how I used to look at the holidays, especially when I was really dealing with OCD and anxiety. And I want to talk about some things that maybe we can start to consider when it comes to making the most out of this time, right? And so let's go ahead and start off with the idea that holidays are not always the most favorable time and most exciting time for some people. And I want to acknowledge that, right? And one of the things that happens is that a lot of people associate holidays as a very tough time of year. And maybe, you lost someone, this year, or maybe something happened this year that the holidays bring back a reminder of that not being in your life anymore. And so therefore, the holidays can seem stressful, right? Or the holidays can seem like a negative experience because you don't get to share the holiday with that person anymore, right? Like there are so many variations of what I'm saying here, but the idea being that the holidays, that we shouldn't just default and assume that everyone enjoys this time of year always, okay? And that every time that you have the holidays, it's supposed to be this amazing experience, because you just may not be in that particular season of your life, okay? And that's okay. I mean, I just want to start by saying that if you've had a very tough year and you're not particularly feeling in an elevated state during this season, that's okay. You just might not be in that season of your life, okay? And we all go through seasons in our life. I mean, I remember when I was really stuck in OCD and anxiety, like the holidays were very stressful because I had to be around a lot of people, and I didn't particularly enjoy being around a lot of people at that time of my life, that season, right? And I mean, now, I very much enjoy being around people. So just because you're feeling a certain way, maybe today or this season, doesn't mean it will always be that way. And I just want to go ahead and start with that idea. Okay. And then for those of you who find the holidays stressful, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about that. So because a lot of times we literally say things like the holidays are stressful. Well, the holidays aren't stressful, right? They literally are just the holidays, right? And if you're in the United States, we celebrate Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas Eve, Christmas, and New Year's. That's all those are, right? What becomes stressful is that we have these unrealistic expectations for them, and we have all these ideas and all these things that we're trying to do in the future, are always trying to navigate all these things in our mind. So then that creates a sense of stress in our body that therefore we associate with the holidays. It's important that we separate that idea that the holidays themselves aren't necessarily stressful. They aren't good. They aren't bad. They're just the holidays. Okay. And I guess it's just important to start with that idea, right? And then let's go ahead and talk about this idea of psychological stress, right? Now, psychological stress is our ability as humans, and it's kind of this really interesting phenomenon of our ability to create an idea, a futuristic idea, and then our body to react to that idea with the stress response or the fight or flight response. Now, the problem with psychological stress, as we talk about, is that, we can literally be creating thought after thought about scenario after scenario of event after event that are never really happening, right? And that may never actually happen, and literally react to them with the stress response in our body on an ongoing basis, right? The problem with psychological stress is we can literally live in a stressed out state about tomorrow always, right? We can always be afraid of tomorrow. And no matter when we get to tomorrow and it's fine, and we come up with a fear about the next day. And this is really what happens with the holidays, is that we try to do so much, and we get worried about all these different things, that many of us are spending the holidays in a chronic state of stress. Even though we're perfectly safe and fine right now, we're trying to navigate these futuristic experiences, right? We're trying to have that conversation with our boss in our head. I need to make sure that I get the perfect gift for these people because I want them to have this reaction, right? Or I need to make sure I plan every single aspect of that dinner, right? Perfectly, right? And we're planning, and we're worrying and coming up with all this stuff in our head that's creating this feeling of stress in our body. And we then misperceive that as the holidays are stressful. See, but what's stressful is all these things that we're coming up with in our head that aren't currently happening right now, right? And so, and because of that, it's putting us in this state of chronic stress, which is causing us to feel very uncomfortable, essentially throughout the whole period. And then what happens is we stop worrying when the holidays get over. So we're like, okay, we got through it, right? And that's the thing, is like, I want you to challenge yourself. If that's a way you look at the holidays, like it's something you need to get through, it's like, oh my goodness, please let go of that language and that idea, because the holidays are not something to get through, right? They're not this obstacle that you're in the way. In fact, they're an opportunity, right? And if they cause you to surface up a lot of worry and doubt, right there is your work to do. Right? They're serving you in that way, where it's like, it's just shining a light of just how much you have this tendency to worry and to get all those ideas up in your mind. Like, there's the work that you need to do. It's just is to really notice your reactiveness to start, going into your mind and trying to problem solve all these fake things that aren't even really happening, And the holidays can actually serve you to start to practice to notice that and to actually reel yourself back from that. Right. And so the other thing I want to talk about is just expectations, right? So much of our stress from the holidays come from our expectations. And again, this is just like anything else, right? It's like, if I have expectations, my expectations cause my reactions to things, right? Because again, if I expect that something's supposed to go a certain way and it doesn't, I can look at the event itself as bad. So let's go ahead and use marriage for an example, right? So a lot of people, I think, they struggle with marriage not because marriage itself is hard, because they have unrealistic expectations about what marriage is supposed to be, right? So a lot of people, that may go into marriage thinking that, okay, well, I'm never supposed to argue, right? And all that's supposed to happen is we're just supposed to make love endlessly, and we're supposed to just live in this complete peaceful harmony, just dancing every night, and and nothing is ever nothing ever bad or negative is supposed to happen. Well, if we have that expectation of marriage, if that's what it's supposed to like, that's the benchmark we set in our mind. And then the first time that you have an argument about who's supposed to take out the trash or to change the toilet paper roll or whatever it is, when you start living with a person and the natural series of events that unfolds after that, would you see how you're going to maybe misperceive that marriage is the problem? And it's not that marriage is the problem. It's that your perception about what marriage is supposed to be is the problem. Your expectation is the problem. Now, this is the same way with the holidays, right? So many people go into the holidays with these expectations that actually make them perceive the holidays as bad, right? Like, we're supposed to have this perfect dinner, right? And your idea of the perfect dinner comes from a movie or a show you saw, right? Everyone's supposed to sit around the table. Everyone's supposed to have a nice holiday sweater on. So when Matt shows up at the dinner with a regular t-shirt on, it's like, oh God, just ruin the holiday, right? Just absolutely ruin the holiday. And it's like, no, it's like, the holiday, the holiday wasn't ruined, right? When you create this expectation of the holiday is supposed to be perfect and you set that benchmark for yourself, Anything that happens that's not perfect then makes you misperceive the holiday as a bad event or a stressful event or a negative event. You see how that happens? See, our expectations, we set these benchmarks out there and then we compare to that benchmark. Now, if we set totally unrealistic, impossible benchmarks, and then it doesn't live up to that, we then misperceive the holiday as a stressful thing, right? Oh, someone spilt the gravy at the table. Someone, oh gosh, Uncle X, Y, and Z are fighting again and arguing. It's like, there's so many things that in the holidays that are beyond your control, right? Or even something like lines at the store. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to wait in these lines. That comes from the idea that with the expectation that the lines aren't supposed to be long, or that you shouldn't have to wait in lines. Like, how silly is that? Of course the lines are going to be long. Right? Everyone buys gifts this time of year, right? It's like, of course the lines are going to be long. And when we go into things with resetting our expectations, or better yet, just letting go of expectation and embracing it as it is, that allows us to be much more mindful and actually experience the event, from a place of presence, right? The same thing with OCD and anxiety. See, a lot of people have this expectation that if I get anxious, or if I have intrusive thoughts, or if I get a panic attack, or if this emotional event happens, then the holidays are bad. And it's like, oh no, oh my goodness, no. It's like, if that happens, that happens. It doesn't mean the holiday was bad or good, right? It just is, we want the holidays to be perfect. And when we try to achieve that, it paradoxically makes us perceive them as bad because they weren't perfect. Right. So it's not necessarily about lowering your expectations. I don't really believe in that idea of just saying, well, I hope the holidays are just terrible and anything good that happens is great. It's like, no, it's really about just letting go of the idea that how things are supposed to go, or how the holidays should be. And when you can let go of that idea, you can just embrace what is happening, right? Whether it's an emotional experience you're having, whether it's an event you didn't foresee happening, whether it's a long line you have to stand in. It's like, you can start to be present to the experience and just embrace it as it is. Right. I mean, like when we took my daughter to see Santa, just this weekend, we had to wait like an hour and a half to see him. Right. And I was not mentally in the mindset of waiting for an hour and a half when I was walking up to the line. But, my ability to just kind of reset and say, okay, well, this is what the line is, and kind of go with it, allowed me to be present for the event, as opposed to being upset of how I thought the event should be. Right. And therefore I stayed in a much more positive emotional state. Okay. So just that idea of expectations is important to understand. Finally, and again, I've alluded to this throughout this episode, is just the idea of presence and being present. Now, the reason that books like The Power of Now exist, right, is because the present moment is really all we have, right? The reason they call it the present, right? It's the gift that we have, right? We don't know the future. The past has already happened. But this is where many of us spend our time, is the past and future, right? We're trying to navigate some futuristic problem where we're, worrying about something that happened in the past. And when we can begin to become present in our lives, and there's different words we can exchange for this: mindfulness, right? Where we really just are living right now. You can always handle right now, right? Life is never unmanageable right now. You always know what to do right now. The moment life becomes unmanageable is when we try to handle 5 minutes from now, or 5 days from now, right? 5 weeks from now, right? I mean, how many of you guys are trying to handle Christmas morning right now? It's December 13th, right? It's like, and then all of a sudden Christmas morning becomes stressful because we don't know how it's going to go, and we're trying to manage all these variables in our mind. It's like, when you can begin to understand psychological stress in your life, right, and expectations that you set that are unrealistic, or even just completely impossible, right? and start to realize that those things are what are creating this internal experience that you're having that you may not like, instead of the misperception that the holidays are stressful, right? Or that the holidays are bad. Let's start looking at the things we're doing that is making us perceive them that way. Right? It's a completely different way of looking at things. And if we can do that, what we can do is we can start to realize that instead of the holidays, right? Instead of trying to change the holidays or change our friends or change our family members to how we think they should be, right? What we can start to do is say, okay, how can I be more present today? Because I swear, like, that is, if you want to have a good holiday season, that is one of the main things that you can do, is every single day, like, how can I be present, right? And really start to look at how you can focus on things that elevate your internal state, right? Like, how can I be, like my wife and I, and again, not going to share any specifics, but like, we have, one of the things that we really believe in is just the idea of generosity, right? And really giving, because like, we find a lot of joy in that. And so when we look to get gifts for people, or during this time of year, looking to do like some kind of special dinner or something like that, is like, what can we do to like really challenge ourselves to really create a cool experience for that person, right? Or when we're getting gifts for each other, is like what can we, like, what would be a really thoughtful thing to do, right? And because that is going to naturally, like, just increase the frequency at which I operate at. It's going to increase me as an individual. It's going to help grow and challenge me. And more importantly, everything I get invited to, right? Not that I get invited to like a ton of stuff, but when I go to a dinner or I go to a lunch, and it may be something simple, like, even just like a random lunch with your in-laws or parents, challenge yourself to be present at that. Like, don't be off thinking about something else. Like, really be present in that event. And if you go to a ugly Christmas sweater party, don't be thinking about the next party you have to go to. Be there, right? And if you really practice being present for all the different experiences that you're going to have, the thing is, you can really start to enjoy each of those experiences, and you will find when you look back on the holidays, it will have been a great holiday season because you were present for everything. And instead of looking at the holidays as something going forward, try looking back at them after you've gone through them presently and see if that shifts your experience. And so just wanted to share those ideas, because I know I hear this a lot of time about how stressful the holidays are. And so I want to just try to offer a different perspective on that. And, for those of you that are looking for help and resources when it comes to OCD and anxiety, over at Restored Minds, we have plenty of stuff for you to help you, right? Whether it's our guide or our book or our Taking Back Control program, or even our group and individual coaching programs. We are here to support you, and this is not something that you have to go through alone. So if you're not part of the community, I hope you'll consider joining us. And with that said, I really hope you guys have a great week and a great holiday season, and I wish you the best. And I'll see you guys next week on our next episode. Take care. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below, and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.